We have to fix that.
Ay, Lilo! Your dog cannot sit
You see that?
at the table.
Stitch
That's a
is
happy
trouble.
family. Released in 2002 by Disney and written by both Chris Sanders and Dean Dubois, this absolute gem of a movie, to put it simply, is a story about family, specifically about a found family between two sisters and an alien. But what separates this movie from any other family-themed film is the obvious sci-fi hijinks that permeates throughout the movie, the fun and chaotic misadventures shown, and of course, but mainly, the three most important characters that the story focuses on. Lilo, a spirited yet sometimes stubborn little girl with eccentric hobbies, Nanny, the hardworking yet stern elder sister, and Stitch, a smart and impulsive alien who revels in chaos and destruction. All three characters, as I analyze the movie, represent one ideal that is associated with them at the very core, which are responsibility, belonging, and companionship. Sit tight and get your snacks at the table as I'm ready to explore all of these terms as well as how they're connected to their respective characters. Starting with...
If you're not doing anything this...
David, I told you I can't. I got a lot to deal with right now.
As previously mentioned earlier, Nanny is regarded as the responsible elder sibling of the family, a role that she shares with other similar characters across fiction. But what makes her stand out in contrast to the others is with the reasoning as to why she places herself into the role of being the responsible one. And it has to do with the fact that the parents of Lilo and Nanny have unfortunately passed away before the events of the movie. This information has been scarcely spread throughout the movie, with one of them indirectly told to us by Lilo herself.
That's us before. It was rainy and they went for a drive.
With this information in mind, it is pretty easy to see that Nanny became the responsible one not by pure choice but instead by necessity, and as such has begun taking on the job and all the baggages that comes with parenting, all with the purpose of taking care of her little sister. Sadly, to say that it was easy would be a bald-faced lie, as not only the relationship between these two sisters have become somewhat sour, which we'll come back to later on, but also Nanny has to face her biggest challenge yet, a tall and imposing social worker, ironically named Mr. Bubbles.
Hi. You must be
The stupid head.
Oh.
Mr. Bubbles serves as an antagonist to Nanny, with one important goal that directly clashes with hers. Basically, he oversees the well-being of Lilo and reports back to the organization that he works for, determining whether Lilo is fit to stay with her elder sister or if she's better off to be taken care of by another family, separating her from Nanny. Obviously, she's willing to prove that she can raise Lilo by herself, but that can't happen without the many hurdles that she'll face, from the minor inconveniences provided by Lilo's naughty habits, to adopting a blue ravaged dog from a pet store that will become a detriment to everyone around him, to subsequently having to go on an endless job search as she loses her previous job, thanks a bunch Stitch, and worse, witnessing her little sister be in danger because of forces she will not have been able to anticipate and therefore avoided. And that happens thrice, by the way, with the second one occurring just as she has found a job.
Thanks.
Oh, Lilo. Please, don't do this.
You know I have no choice.
You don't know what you're doing. She needs me.
Is this what she needs?
And the third time being a full-on planetary scale kidnapping.
Surprise! And here I thought you'd be difficult to catch.
No, stop!
In a nutshell, responsibility is directly linked to Nanny's character, as her wanting to provide for her sister and practically be her only caretaker demands her to be perseverant no matter the obstacles that comes her way. And even if she does break down at the circumstances outside of her control, fortunately she does have people that she can rely on when things get sour, with her successes thanks in part to her boyfriend David and eventually the aliens Dr. Jumba and Pickley. Even Lilo does help, as she voluntarily handles Stitch trying to tame him, effectively removing at least another burden from Nani's back as she tries to focus on trying to get a job to support both three of them. All this to say that Nani, in my opinion, is by far the most responsible character that I know. Right next to Raph from Rise of TMNT, but that's a topic for another time.
This is Scrump. I made her, but her head is too big. So I pretend a bug laid eggs in her ear.
Being the next character on my list and by far the easiest to dissect, Lilo is closely associated with companionship, as it is the one thing she desperately craves. Not to say that she has a bad relationship with her elder sister, far from it. They are both compassionate and kind to one another, and they're able to communicate with one another with ease and understanding from both ends. Heck, Lilo is comfortable with talking to her sister about what transpired at the dance sessions.
I hit Myrtle Edmonds today.
You hit her?
Before I bit her.
You bit her. Lilo, you shouldn't.
People treat me different.
They just don't know what to say. I'll tell you what. If you promise not to fight anymore, I promise not to yell at you. Except on special occasions.
Tuesdays and bank holidays would be good.
The main issue, however, begins when the same kind and understanding sibling is also irritable and sarcastic, all the while essentially acting like a mother half the time. Let me iterate again. Nani being the new mother is not the problem, given the situation that both these two sisters are in. But from the perspective of what I'm guessing is a 6-year-old little girl, it does become hard to adjust to. Add that to the trauma of losing both parents, and you effectively have a little girl who is emotionally sensitive to all forms of pain, in particular the fear of losing the people she cares for. It doesn't help that her peers of the same age alienate her for not only her emotional response, but also her eccentric tastes.
Why is this so important?
Pudge controls the weather. You're crazy. My friends! What do you want? I'm sorry I bit you and pulled your hair and punched you in the face. Apology not accepted. I have to cut you. Are you gonna play dolls? You don't have a doll.
Fortunately for her, her want of friendship has been answered as she gets a new friend in the form of... yeah, that. But alas, Stitch turns out to be a bigger high maintenance than initially thought, as he has relentlessly caused so many problems for his new family as well as the rest of the citizens of Kawaii. That, however, doesn't stop Lilo, as not only does she stubbornly convince Nani to keep Stitch, saying,
Dad said Ohana means family.
Huh?
Ohana means family. Family means
Nobody gets left behind.
Or
forgotten.
He said it!
shh! But also, as mentioned earlier, she takes it upon herself to tame and discipline Stitch into what Mr. Bubbles expects him to be, a model citizen. Obviously, it does start off difficult at first, in part because of Stitch, but slowly and surely, as they interact more and more, Stitch eventually does start to see both Lilo and Nani as family, not only going about his way to protect them, well, mainly Lilo, but I digress, he also does his best at one point to not rage out of impulse. Well, most of the time.
Ohana means family. Family means nobody
gets left behind.
Speaking of the alien himself, Stitch is by far the most fascinating character, as his entire character is defined by just one single sentence. He wants to belong. Well, I say that, but at the start of the movie, there was only one thing that was on his mind, and that is to cause as much chaos as possible, all thanks to the evil buffoon Dr. Jumba.
I prefer to be called Evil Genius!
Don't care. What? He got caught! I can't take him seriously! Anyway, TLDR, Stitch is commonly referred to by the rest of the aliens as Experiment 626, illegally created by Dr. Jumba to be unstoppable, impervious to bullets and fire, and extremely smart with the only purpose to destroy. Because of this, Stitch's entire life is regarded as an abomination, and therefore he's supposed to be exiled to a deserted asteroid where he won't cause any trouble. Of course, in response to that hostility, Stitch frees himself, escapes the alien organization's grasp, and lands on Earth to cause even more trouble. But unfortunately for him, Earth ends up becoming his own prison, as not only he crashes into Kauai, an island surrounded by water,
He can't swim. Literally, he cannot swim.
but also he finds himself constantly restricted by his newfound family, as they are to his eyes constantly nagging him for his behavior. But then, through these limitations and having a few bonding sessions with Lilo, which involves reading the story of the Ugly Duckling, reveals a rather existential and haunting revelation. For one, if he can't do what he was programmed for, then what is even his goal or objective? And secondly, does he even have a place to belong, a family to turn to? It doesn't help that his creator, and by default his own father, now is hunting him down in exchange for his freedom. Though, Stitch and Dr. Jumpa barely refer to each other with family terms, with Dr. Jumpa consistently calling him Experiment 626 throughout the movie. So it could be that they don't see each other as family, at least not yet anyway. Stitch does come around and slowly but steadily views Lilo and Nani as his family, but due to his outbursts and his programming, he tends to cause more problems even when the situation is not his fault. With the climax being that while it was Dr. Jumba who invaded Lilo's home, Stitch's reckless action causes said home to be destroyed, effectively making the situation between Lilo, Nani, and Mr. Bubbles a lot worse than before. Nevertheless, towards the end of the movie, he ends up fighting to protect his newfound family, which is reinforced by his choice to save Lilo, which was in part influenced by Nani's plea. By proxy, this shows that he has finally found and chosen the people he wants to belong to.
Who are you? This is my family. I found it all on my own. It's little and broken, but still good. Yeah, still good.
Looking back on the movie after years of watching it since I was a child, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that I love this movie. Even to this day, I still find myself going back and watching it sporadically over the years, with my most recent being back when we were all forced into our homes, never to be able to leave for a while. That said, I hope I have explained what each of these main characters represented throughout the film, and by proxy through allusions what they meant to each other despite of how much they bicker. Knowing that you can still show love and compassion towards a family as represented by these three does pull a smile on my face. Do watch this movie when you have the time. It's a high recommendation for me, no surprise there. Also, if I had a nickel for every time I spoke about two daring blue boys who hate water, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happens twice.